Alrighty, welcome back for another episode of Two Plane Sports. Today is Wednesday, May 31st, last day of May before we roll into official visits season. Just starting to heat up. We've got a big visitor list. Actually, I think not expected to be as big as it is, but June 9th is becoming a big visit weekend for Oklahoma. And then obviously Champ U Barbecue on June 16th. So we're going to be talking about a few visitors that will be attending both events. And then talk a couple other, maybe a transfer, maybe talk a little softball because that game is tomorrow, and what we might see. Maybe it's 10-0 to Stanford and we run rule them, or is it actually going to be somewhat close? So, but before we get into it, just be sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, turn the notification bell on, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Apple, Spotify, and TikTok. Everything's linked in the description below. And we're going for 200 likes on this video, so help us out, get us there. We've done it before. Let's get the likes going. It helps us out quite a bit. So let's start.
Well, it's interesting to me that you didn't open this show with Heat Celtics updates as you did after Game 6.
I was just about to talk about it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was about to say, believe it or not, Brandon did indeed watch Game 7 after he explicitly told me and Jose that he will not watch Game 7 because the game is fixed and it's rigged and everyone's against his Miami Heat. And for some in a magical world, somehow the Heat won and are going to play the Nuggets. They'll probably get 4-0 against the Nuggets, maybe 4-1. But anyway, Brandon, I'd like to say congratulations. Your Heat won, but
it's time to win.
I'm not.
Four more.
Sure.
We're about to watch Georgia TCU again, but the basketball version.
Jokic is probably going to average a triple-double every single night, and Bam's going to look lost. And
we'll find out soon enough, boys. You got to play the game first.
Do you?
Yeah.
Do you though?
According to you, it was already over.
Yeah, you were convinced that wasn't the case.
I'm not a huge fan of officiating in any sport, particularly the NBA right now.
If anyone hasn't been around long enough, every official is against Brandon's teams.
In every sport.
In every
It's
sport,
not just the NBA.
For some reason, it doesn't matter if it's the Sooners, if it's the Dolphins, the Heat, the Cubs. It doesn't matter. Everyone's out to get Brandon's teams. So
ridiculous.
I'm glad that the refs were able to help you guys and get you there and didn't ruin it for you. So
we need to just get rid of officiating and let the players play games. I've been on that hill for years.
Yeah. So anyway, all right. So I guess game 1 will be tonight as well, and we'll see what Jokic does.
Yeah.
Oh, no, you're right.
Yeah, it's Thursday.
Right. Yeah, it
tomorrow.
is. Gosh, I thought it was Wednesday. Never mind. So it'll be June 1st. Jokic will go for 30, 20, and 10, and we'll see what ends up happening. So, but let's start with OU softball. Let's just start off the top. They play on Thursday as well, so we won't be able to, we won't have a video out before on Thursday. But they play Stanford at 1:30. I'm curious to see who is in the circle for that game for Oklahoma. Is it Jordy Ball? Does she go first for this game? The team I'm a little worried about, and I don't want to look at, past Stanford, is I'm a little concerned about Tennessee. Did you guys watch Tennessee play at all? Okay, so no, but I mean, Tennessee ran Texas out bad. And Tennessee's playing some really good ball. So, I don't want to look past Stanford, but OU should take care of Stanford. And I think they will. But it's going to be interesting to see who they play in their next game. Tennessee could pose some issues and challenges, but I think Oklahoma can take care of business starting on Thursday. Brendan, do you have any thoughts? Jose, do you have any thoughts? I mean, they're the best team out there, and they should handle their business.
So what I'm about to say, I don't want this to sound as if I'm discrediting Clemson at all, because Clemson brought it. They did everything they can to end that win streak, to beat Oklahoma, to force a game 3, to maybe even play in the College World Series. Clemson played a hell of a game. But I think with the Sooners, if you watch game 1 of that series where they win, what was it, 8-0, 9-0, I can't remember, 9-1, 8-1, they won pretty handedly. And then you go to game 2 of that series, and granted, Clemson's backs are against the wall, so they have to play a little bit better. But I think in the back of Oklahoma's minds, they knew what was at stake. They know, holy shit, you win this game, but that's 48 in a row. That's a record. It's the last game at Martina Hines Field. That game had a lot riding on it, and I think the Sooners played like it had a lot riding on it. I think they played a little bit less free than they normally do. I think they had, they were still doing their singing and dancing and songs in the dugout and stuff, but it seemed it was just a little bit lesser down. I think they were almost taking it too seriously, if you will, if that's a thing that makes any sense, because I think they're at their best when they're playing loose and free with no pressure, it seems, and they're just out there balling. And I think with that monkey off their back with 48 it's done now. I think you'll see a more free and relaxed Sooner softball team, and I think they will beat Stanford pretty handedly.
They will be playing against the freshman of the year, so we'll see how she handles the competition. And I'm gonna butcher the hell out of her name, Najari Kennedy. I think that's how you pronounce it. So who knows? Maybe future Sooner. Transfer portal is always an option.
Yeah, and Brandon, I mean, you do have a point, and not just softball and sports in general. Sometimes it's almost better to lose a game before. It sounds really counterintuitive, but if you got a giant winning streak, if you're 14-0 in the NFL, it's almost better just lose a week 15, week 16 game, drop one, and you don't have to go into the postseason trying to worry about being perfect and going all the way. I mean,
it's a whole lot of added pressure that doesn't really need to be there. But at the end of the day, that's over now. The record has been achieved. I think you can play a lot more loose and free.
Yeah. Or keep it going.
Yeah, just keep it going, and I'd imagine they will. And it'll be interesting to see who wins all the first games in the first round. That will be going on Thursday in Oklahoma City. It's I wish I could go, but it seems like a pretty fun atmosphere. So we can move on to football now. We'll start with Williams Nwaneri. He officially announced his official visit list or schedule. He's got coming up. So the 2024 5-star defensive lineman, the number one defensive lineman in the class out of Lee Summit, Missouri. We've obviously talked about him at length, and I don't think we really need to dive into what he could bring to this Oklahoma team. And other than the fact that Oklahoma needs defensive linemen in the worst way possible, especially with a little bit of the doubt from Jacob Lacey and just the talent and the level of play that a Williams Nwaneri would bring to this team is off the charts and something that Oklahoma doesn't really have on the interior defensive line. So his visitor schedule looks like right now it's Georgia June 2nd, Oklahoma June 9th, Tennessee June 16th, Missouri June 23rd, and Oregon September 23rd. So Oregon's getting him on campus for a game visit. And my initial thought, we talked about it a little bit before we started recording this, some initial reaction is the thought of there were some conflicting reports of where he was going on June 16th. One reporter said that he was going to Oklahoma and the other said he was going to Tennessee. And it almost seemed like he was unsure and kind of was telling both ways just in case if he went one way or another. But obviously he decided to go June 9th rather than the Champion Barbecue. And some people, I'm not going to sit here and act like that's not a little bit of an alarm, but it really, at the end of the day, isn't that big of a deal. Obviously you want him at your main recruiting event, but if you're getting him a week before, that doesn't mean he's not going to choose your school because he didn't go to the main recruiting event. But, on the flip side, with Sammy Brown, we talked about in the last episode, Oklahoma convinced him to take the June 16th visit and put Ohio State at the last visit. And he did that. But Tennessee was able to win out in this regard. And we talked about that, maybe Oklahoma's a little bit of a leg up over Ohio State as far as, maybe Ohio State's 4th or 5th in his favorites. Does that mean Oklahoma's, second place behind Tennessee? I think Tennessee's the biggest competitor in this recruitment and the biggest threat. So I just don't know, are we reading too much into it? Is there some potential, causes for concern? Jose, what do you think?
The biggest cause for concern is the last visit. Oregon during the football season is, to me, the biggest concern. Maybe the immediate threat would be Tennessee during the summer if Oklahoma or Tennessee weren't able to get him to commit before the season starts. Oregon will be a dangerous player come September, and that's not an easy battle to win. We've seen it now multiple times. Peyton Bowen being the one that Oklahoma won out on, and Sims being the other side of the coin, where Oklahoma just wasn't able to overcome what Oregon has to offer, whether it's NIL or kids just really liking Dan Lanning, whatever the reason each player makes that decision for. Oregon's a tough battle. You got to really impress. And honestly, from what keeps coming out about the official visit that Sammy Brown had with Tennessee and other kids and their experiences at Tennessee with Heupel, it seems like they won't be an easy one to beat either. So you got to really use and not that Oklahoma won't, but they got to use the resources. Keep his head coach kind of in his ear saying, where's Oklahoma in your process, and kind of keeping those connections, because at this point that's kind of what Oklahoma's riding on. It seems like when Tennessee kind of came in out of nowhere when Oklahoma had a big lead, and now Oregon's going to be a tough one to try to beat out in the middle of the season.
So my biggest thing with the Champion Barbecue and why I wanted it to be Champion Barbecue weekend, almost entirely in Williams & Wary's case, is because David Stone's going to be on campus that weekend, and I think David Stone is going to – I still ultimately think David Stone's going to end up being a Sooner, and I think he's the first big domino. And I would have loved for Stone and Nwaneri to be on campus at the same time, because who knows, maybe you can actually get a silent commitment from Stone on June 16th at Champion Barbecue with Williams & Wary there, and then he knows, oh shit, okay, Stone's going here. Maybe that was my biggest thing that why I wanted him specifically at Champion was because David Stone's going to be there, and I think David Stone's definitely going to bring some elite talent with him. Now that's not to say that David Stone still can't silently commit at Champion and text him, hey man, I'm doing this, which that's still very much a possibility, but it would have been way cooler for them to be on campus at the exact same time. That's the only reason that I, for this case, would have loved to see a Champion thing specifically for Williams & Wary. It's not the way of the road, but like you said, Bram, at the top of this, it's not the end of the world. I think you can still wow a kid the week before. It's not a big deal. I looked up the Oregon football schedule because I do think I agree with Hose that it's really tough to beat a actual game visit, which Oregon is the only one that's going to be offering this. So Oregon's actually hosting Colorado that weekend. I don't think Deion's going to have the boys turned around quick enough to be competing by week 3 after taking over a 1-10 team. But that is going to be a weekend where we can all buffalo up, because whereas there is nothing like taking an OV probably at an actual game environment, seeing the atmosphere, seeing all that stuff, I imagine nothing could ruin it better than watching the school you're considering get their ass kicked by a team that just went 1-10 at home. So I think Colorado could almost eliminate Oregon from contention with a win on that day. So that is a day that I will be buffaloing up.
I don't think that Oregon visit happens.
That too.
I don't think it happens.
Whether
it's Oklahoma or Oregon, I don't think it's happening. Or Oklahoma or Tennessee, I don't think it's happening.
I can't even say anything bad about Tennessee because I kind of like what they stand for. I'm going back to the what I used to say about kids who are considering, OU and Ohio State all the time. Just I would show kids, and I really would just show kids 1,000 times if they're considering Ohio State. Just Baker Mayfield planting the flag all day long on that. So for Tennessee, I guess I think we have the last win over that Rocky Top. Yeah, to show them shushing the crowd and show, Zach Sanchez's pick. Just show whatever. Just show the whole comeback. Show Sterling Shepard jumping into the end zone. That was a fun game. Just say this is what happens if you go here.
Yeah.
The 2 schools we're not talking about that could probably make some real trouble for Oklahoma outside of Tennessee. Georgia, back-to-back national champs, produced defensive linemen like it's nothing. And Mizzou, who sounds crazy, but they managed to keep those in-state kids in-state more often than not. And for a while, they were the favorites, or at least Oklahoma's biggest competition until Tennessee came in. So you can't count them out either. Like, this isn't a recruitment that Oklahoma, I believe, really has a huge lead in. They might have a small enough one where they just need to make sure that the impression they make during his official visit is one that lasts past the Mizzou visit, because that's the last one he has in the summer.
And I think I've said it before, and if I hadn't, I just want to reiterate. Williams Nwaneri, I think there's a legitimate chance that he is not a part of this class. I mean, I feel better about David Stone. I understand that it seems like all the reports are it's Oklahoma for Williams Nwaneri or Oklahoma or Tennessee. I don't know.
Well, you did also say it's Oklahoma or Tennessee, right?
Yeah, it is Oklahoma or Tennessee as it is right now. But what happens if he takes these officials and then he doesn't announce and he does go to the Oregon visit? I wouldn't like Oklahoma's chance at that point. If it's going in October, late September, early October, he's waiting for something. And he's waiting for Oregon. So
yeah, and then if Oregon beats the holy shit out of them, then boom, it's over. Or not Oregon. If Colorado beats the holy shit out of Oregon, then that's over. But what are the odds of that?
Very low.
Yeah, I would say very low.
Better chance of winning the lottery.
I certainly hope that Nwaneri is a part of this class, but I am very cautious of the odds of Oklahoma pulling one five-star defensive lineman is not super high, let alone pulling two is extremely even. I mean, and you're right. There is a third one. The guy out of Louisiana. What's his name? I'm totally blanking.
Dominic McKinley.
McKinley. I mean, the odds of them pulling all three of those guys next to zero. I mean,
pretty negative.
It's not.
I remember when this used to be fun, and we used to predict everybody to go to Oklahoma. This is why the comments are declining. This is why the views are declining. Because you just get on here and say, "Let me talk about this kid who's elite," and he's not coming here, by the way.
I mean, didn't we as a unit predict 5 stars?
We just gotta stay positive. It's happening.
We are trend according to our prediction. Williams is part of this class, and so far, I don't think we missed.
So we got to be sunshine pumpers.
Sunshine pumpers. All right. So I am wrong. All three. We're going to have at least 7 5-stars in this class. So it's going to be probably statistically one of the best, if not the best class in the history of Oklahoma football. So let's move on. So staying in the Missouri, Kansas City metro area, 2024 4-star defensive end, Jayshawn Ross, talented player. We've talked about him. It's been a long time, but I know we've talked about him before. It seems like that Oklahoma, he's 6'4", 220. Oklahoma wants Jayshawn Ross. And the edge player, the edge position, you add a guy like Ross and you add a guy like Williams Nwaneri and all that, you've got extreme level of talent. And Oklahoma has a very good, they're building their roots in the Kansas City metro area. And I think that's becoming a pretty strong push for Oklahoma. It seems like Oklahoma is pushing for Ross. They want him to be a part of this class. And I'm hoping he's coming for the Champ U barbecue. And if he shows up for the Champ U barbecue, you'd like to think you would like Oklahoma's odds there. But as far as he's not overly active on social media, he's not overly, he keeps a lot of things close to his vest. So it's really kind of tough to tell what's going on here. But I think if you see him show up for an official for the Champ U or June 9th, you would like to think that Oklahoma's in a pretty good spot. Brandon, what do you think?
This one's very interesting to me with Jayshawn Ross because the kid also plays receiver. And you mentioned that size, 6'4", 220. He looks a little bit funny out there at defensive end, almost a little bit, just because he's a little undersized compared to these big offensive linemen. But that being said, he's a lot quicker than them. He's got some really good speed moves. He still gets after the quarterback. I think he had 6 sacks as a freshman. So it shows that he can still get back there. 220, however, is not going to work playing at a high Division I anywhere along the defensive line. So that's why I think it gets interesting. With Jayshawn Ross, is he a kid that kind of, if you're recruited to Oklahoma, let's say Oklahoma wins out, is he a kid that plays the cheetah position? Because if the kid's naturally around 6'4", 220, I don't think you want to bulk him up to 250 or 260, and because that might just screw up everything about his game. It would change the way he plays. So I'm not sure Oklahoma recruits him as a defensive lineman, just because of that size. It's an interesting position to be in, I think, with Jayshawn Ross.
And I was kind of thinking the same thing about the cheetah position when we were talking about his size earlier. And that would seem to be the place where he would fit, especially after this. Let's look at what the roster looks like when he would be potentially on the team. It'd be Dasan McCullough, more than likely the starter, as we all expect it to be this season. Harrington, I don't think he has eligibility after this season. I could be wrong. But then he would be, him and maybe Day McCullough would be the guys that would be on the roster that would be competing for that.
Still not giving up on my brother Jaden Rowe.
Or Jaden Rowe. There's definitely an opportunity for Jayshawn. You would have to probably develop better coverage skills, because that's one thing that you don't want to give up just a good pass rusher, or you don't want to put a good pass rusher in that can't cover. You're trying to find a mix there, and can he do it? Probably, but how quickly can he develop those skills once he gets on campus would be the question. And luckily, the guy ahead of him, probably at how everyone speaks about him, might be a first-round pick by the time he leaves Norman. And he'd be a really good person to learn under, but you really gotta get there and be prepared to learn, because it's a position that is pivotal for this defense.
It is, and it's really that position, like you said, it is. You live and die by that position in the schematic of this defense. So Ross, another highly, high ceiling kind of guy, Kansas City metro area.
Are we saying there's a 0% chance on him too, bro?
No, I think there's a legitimate chance with him. I just want to set expectations.
So are you saying that there's not a legitimate chance at Williams-Nwaneri?
No, I think there is, but I like the odds of Ross being a part of this class more than I do Williams-Nwaneri.
Okay, I feel you.
Like if you would put it Williams at a 5 and Jayshawn at a 6 kind of thing.
Are you talking about on a scale of 1 to 10?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Just marginally better. I mean, any 5-star defensive lineman or any 5-star defensive players in general, in my mind, I don't really care what the reports say. I am still like 50% or less.
Wouldn't David Stone a 5-star? I think we all think we're gonna get him.
Yeah, but the longer this drags out, I feel like a 7 with him. But there is a world where Stone is not a part of this class too. But I think he is going to be a part of this class. The expectations, you can't have. I'm not saying you can't. The odds of any program having 3 5-star defensive linemen in this class, in one class, is very rare. And that's just reality.
Well, if Crimson and Cream NIL want to sponsor the program, we will definitely help get the NIL money to get 3 5-star defensive linemen.
Yeah, for sure. So, and people can call me, the pessimistic and everything else, but I think they could get 2, and that's probably the best case scenario. Most likely 1, but I think they can get 2.
You hate fun.
I do. I hate fun. So let's move on. So the next topic, or the next guy we're going to be talking about, is Dejon Terry. A tweet went out earlier on Tuesday, and basically highlighting that he visited Oklahoma within the last week. He's in the transfer portal. He's originally from the University of Tennessee, the Tennessee Volunteers. So came over. He's a defensive tackle, 6'4", 321. So he is a big boy. Not someone that's jumping off the charts as far as the statistics, but we talked about I think it was the previous show, where there is some sort of question or some sort of doubt surrounding Jacob Lacey. Oklahoma is exploring their options here, and I think they need depth. they need SEC size, and he comes from the SEC. Not saying that he was the biggest producer, but he knows what SEC ball is like. Brandon, what do you think?
I couldn't agree more. I think the more the merrier at these positions. I think you can never have too many. I'm totally okay with it if it happens. He's a guy who's going to get you about, just looking at what his numbers are over 3 seasons, he's going to get you about 10 tackles and 2 sacks a year as a rotational piece. 10 tackles, 1 sack, whatever. He's going to make enough plays when he's in there to be relevant, and he's not going to be a game changer. He's going to be impactful, I think is the way to describe him. I would be totally on board. Hopefully Oklahoma is able to land him, just because, the more depth, the merrier. I think he's going to be exactly that. He's going to be depth. He's not going to be a game breaker, game changer, but he's going to be a solid piece that you can rotate in and, fill in the spots when needed.
And I was kind of doing a little bit of research. Emmett Jones and him were at Kansas at the same time together. So there's a tiny connection there. Oklahoma needs a guy like DeJoun Terry for the interior of the defensive line, even if if the doubts around Jacob Lacey weren't, coming out. You just need more depth there. Outside of, Coe, Kelly, Lacey, and Sears, you're waiting for these younger guys to make a jump. And Halton and Gilliam, like, who's gonna do it? You're waiting. And even with the first 4 guys I mentioned, you're waiting on who's going to be a guy to step up in the interior. And it maybe hasn't happened yet, and getting that additional piece is going to help. Similar to the wide receivers. They're looking for that guy to fill in a role either this season or after this season. Who's going to be number 1? And that's essentially what they're in the same boat, and someone's got to step up to do it.
Someone does, and someone needs to quickly. And at the end of the day, they might not be game changers. We just need some sort of consistency and good play. Doesn't have to be great. It just needs to be good. And that's why the recruitment of Williams Nwaneri and David Stone and all those guys are so critical to the long-term outlook for the defensive line room at the University of Oklahoma. So let's shift gears. But before we do, be sure to like the video. If you've already watched, 20-something minutes or just joining us midway through the video, be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, turn the notification bell on. That's all free, easy. And be sure to comment and stay around for Brandon's Any Video Challenge. When you comment, like, and subscribe, it's free and it helps us out a lot, and it spreads the word and gets more like-minded individuals in here, and even some trolls too. So let's talk about the offense now. So Caden Durham, we've talked about him at length, the 4-star running back out of Duncanville, Texas. At one point, it seemed like it was just pretty much a foregone conclusion that Oklahoma was going to land his commitment. But since the last few months, there's been some crystal balls in favor of LSU rather than Oklahoma. But he has released an official visit schedule for the summer. His first visit will be next week, or this coming weekend, at Texas A&M, June 9th at Michigan State, and then June 16th at Oklahoma. The one that's kind of looming out there that has not been officially scheduled, at least publicly, is LSU, and that seems to be the biggest competitor. And before we talk about him, when was it ever a thing, and maybe I just am living under a rock, where people are starting to announce their official visit schedules? Like, is that new? Did that happen last year? Am I just not remembering? I just feel like it seems like everyone's starting to say, okay, this is my slate this summer. This is where I'm going.
I think it's pretty new. It's just like it's announcing their high school transfer.
That's the craziest shit of all time.
But it happens.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, it's fine. I think it's cool and it's public and everyone can know. But Jose, what do you think about Caden Durham? Obviously a talented player, but what do you think the odds are he's a part of this class?
I'd like to say pretty high, but it feels like with the entire running back room, we've talked about it for months. And I think I said it last time we talked about a running back. we're in play for so many guys, and they're all very talented and highly rated players. So there's a reason why they're maybe drawing it out a little longer. They really want to make sure that where they commit is the place they want to be. But then there's also the other side of it where NIL is as much as some of us may not like it, NIL is a thing that these kids need to do their due diligence with, and like who's going to set me up, maybe not pay me the most up front, but who's going to set me up best for my college career and to get me in the NFL. I think Oklahoma still serves them best because you've got a guy in Coach Murray who has experience in the NFL, was great in the NFL, was great in college, has produced good players and gotten them to good situations post-college. But LSU and Brian Kelly are going to be a problem. It's like if they can lock him down, I think that really does start the domino effect for the running back room. But it might not even be him. It's just who can be the first running back to commit to make the other guys maybe rush their decision just a little bit to either make it Oklahoma or move on from Oklahoma and look elsewhere.
I think the chances are about 50-50. I feel similar to this kid about how Brum feels about Williams Nwaneri. I think it's an Oklahoma LSU battle, which is interesting because everything we've seen, I think online and stuff would indicate Oklahoma versus LSU, and then he comes out with his official visit list and LSU's not even on it. So it's wild. I think maybe he's trying to throw us off the scent and stuff. Who knows? But I don't know. I think it's a two-team battle. I would love to see Oklahoma win out. The dude's freaky athletic, freaky talented. He had about 2,000 yards on 200 carries last year, 36 touchdowns. So, he's dynamic. Hopefully DeMarco Murray can win, and I agree with those. I think if you do land him, that's the first domino. I think we get at least one more running back.
And I think we'll know more after the Champion Barbecue where Oklahoma truly stands. And I do expect him to take a visit to LSU, maybe later in June or maybe July. And again, maybe he's just saving LSU to be the last visit, and maybe he's doing that. And it's tough to say. I'm not overly concerned with the running back room, but you do point out of something funny, Brandon, that seems to owe you LSU with the crystal balls, but then there's no official visit to LSU, I guess, publicly scheduled. So I'd imagine that's coming soon because he did announce, or On3 announced, that it was just OU Michigan State, and then there was an update, I think Tuesday, as we're recording this, adding that Texas A&M visit. So I'm guessing LSU will be added at a later date, and I'm not sure if he's planning to take a visit to Alabama or something like that as his fifth visit. So
Maybe
I'd imagine
it's an LSU thing. Yeah. Sorry to interrupt, but
no,
Caden Durham doesn't do it. Neither did Dominic McKinley. Both pre these official visits are supposed to be favored towards or leaning towards LSU. Maybe Kelly and the recruiting staff is just trying to be the last one and get him lined up for July. Make it that the month for their big event.
Or they decided they hate LSU out of nowhere.
But then on the flip side, that could mean Brian Wesco now hates Oklahoma. And so it's not publicly scheduled.
There you go again. You guys just being negative. I'm just down here trying to keep the positivity going.
Negative podcast. Negative Nancy's in here. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I'm sure we'll be hearing and seeing things after his Texas A&M visit. But, at the end of the day, whether it's him or Taylor Tatum or, anyone, I think Oklahoma's going to be fine in this class. I certainly hope Caden Durham's a part of this class. But at the end of the day, it's going to be interesting to see.
We do have him on the projected class. So
we need him in the class to keep us perfect. So we'll move on, talk about the last player we're going to talk about on this show is Eddy Pierre-Louis, 6'3", 335-pound interior offensive lineman out of Tampa, Florida. He's a 4-star, a large human. And Brandon pointed out his 247 profile picture is quite intimidating when you look at him. But he's, I believe, scheduled to visit Oklahoma officially. I think it's June 9th. I think he's coming for an official next month, or here in the next couple of weeks to Oklahoma. And Jose, you pointed out before we started, we talked about him a long time ago, and it seemed like there was a lot of hype between him and OU when they officially offered him. I think you said he called it his dream offer, and there seemed to be a lot of momentum there. And there's never been like really any follow through. There's been a lot of hype, a lot of hope, a lot of things like that. But it seems like he's going to at least come take an official. I'm not sure what to really make of this because it's his first visit and it's an official visit. Is it he's just taking the official just because, or is there a legitimate chance? It's just really hard for me to imagine that you go visit one school one time and that's it. Not saying he can't visit, in the fall. I don't know. What do you think, Jose, on Eddy Pierre-Louis? I mean, he'd be a huge addition, but
This dude is a freak athlete. He's just not a huge human being. Just doing a refresher here. He runs track, and he's keeping up with guys that are probably less than half his size. They're probably coming in at $150, and he's almost 200, a whole human, bigger than them, and he's keeping up. So, he's a freak athlete. He's just not large. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting how that recruitment has been, because you would think, he comes out when OU first offers, and I'm 99% confident he called Oklahoma his dream school. And it kind of just fades away pretty quickly. Nothing's really changed about the program either. I mean, obviously the season for last year wasn't as planned and it didn't go very well. But you would assume maybe something changes there, or maybe that's what changed for him. Maybe he wants to have seen the school he's going to have success. If that's what the case, then this upcoming season for OU is going to be big. As long as he doesn't make any sort of announcement I guess even if he makes an announcement before the football season, if Oklahoma impresses and Coach B impresses as he usually does with his unit, Eddy is going to at least reconsider and maybe try to take more visits during the football season. But at this point, Oklahoma's playing catch up, and they just gotta impress. Like we've talked about with a couple of these guys, it's summertime. It's all about how big of an impression can you make on these kids that even with their next 2 or 3 visits after they still decide to pick Oklahoma, or even cancel the ones after. That's best case scenario for us as fans and Oklahoma as a school. Impress them so much they're like, you know what, I don't need to go anywhere else. This is home.
Yeah, can you imagine the size and athleticism with Coach B? It's a lot of fun to think about. And I think I've said it 1,000 times with offensive linemen. I'm just going to keep beating this dead horse till it's not true. I mean, Bill Bedenbaugh literally just has to show this kid his resume and be like, look what I can do and look at all the tools you have. I think it's another match made in heaven. We're playing catch up, that's fine, but I think it should be, from the outside looking in, without having been on any official visits for anybody or visits anywhere or being recruited at any level. I just feel like from the outside looking in, you look at what OU has done on the offensive line, you look at this kid's athleticism and just raw talent and size and everything. It seems like a match made in heaven. It seems like something we should be able to lock up very easily. Unfortunately, that's not always the case. But still, I hope Oklahoma locks him up. Be a lot of fun. That's about it.
That's about it. Good place to end the show, right?
Good place.
And Eddy and Caden would be the perfect offensive tackle duo going into the SEC. Big boys that are also extremely athletic.
Are you talking about Caden Massey?
No, Caden Green.
Oh, Caden Green. Sorry. Okay. Yeah, Caden. You're right. Massive human beings.
Friend of the show, Caden Green. You guys always forget people who come on the show, and I don't forget them.
Don't forget him.
Yeah.
Friend of the show, Caden Green.
I want you to make sure that you say friend of the show.
Okay.
Making sure you remember.
Yeah, we're testing you. So with that, I don't have anything else. Brandon, do you want to do the innovative challenge?
Yeah, so today I've been thinking about this one for about a week now, since we've got a lot of Ted fans on the show. Ted Lasso, that is. Today is pretty sure the last episode of Ted Lasso ever. So that's kind of unfortunate. I'm kind of dreading that. It's been personally, I think one of my favorite series that I've ever watched. Yellowstone's up there too, but with Ted Lasso coming to an end, I've started watching Platonic on Apple TV a little bit, solid as well. But what are we watching out there today? And I've asked this before as an individual challenge, but this is one that could be recycled at least once a year because you never know what great series are out there that someone might be able to point you towards. I've started Platonic on Apple TV. I think it's pretty solid if you have Apple TV. It's got Seth Rogen and the girl that he did
Neighbors.
that Step Parents movie, or whatever. Neighbors. So pretty solid program. With Teddy coming to an end tomorrow or today, we're on the look for new ones. What are we currently watching? Whether it be Netflix, Apple TV, Hulu, whatever it is. What are we watching?
I haven't watched it, but it seemed like everyone was tweeting about and talking about the show Succession or something like that. I don't know if you watched that. It seemed like a lot of people enjoy that program. So
I'll check that one. What's that on?
It's on HBO Max or just Max now.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, you made it this far. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, turn the notification bell on, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Apple, Spotify, and TikTok. Everything's linked in the description below, and we'll catch you guys next time.